Last night, before bed, you made a list. 5 things to do every single morning. Wake up and drink a glass of water. Stretch for a few minutes. Write down what you need to do that day. No phone for 10 minutes. Sit still and breathe. 5 things, all on one page, in your phone. You had seen so many videos about morning routines. Tonight, you decided, this is the night everything changes. The first morning, you did all 5. You checked off every box. You felt proud. You did your morning, completely, start to finish. For one morning, you were exactly the kind of person who has it all together. But it took longer than you thought. You looked at the clock. You were almost late. By day 3, you skipped the sitting still part. There was simply no time for it that day. By day 5, you dropped the writing part, too. By day 7, you did not even open the app anymore. Somewhere between day 1 and day 7, the list quietly stopped feeling like a plan. Day 2, if anyone had asked, you would have said it was going fine. You had no idea you were already on your way out. The list is still there, on your phone. No one has touched it in weeks. Maybe yours still has a name like New Me or Morning Reset, sitting in your Notes app, untouched. It just sits there, quiet like a ghost of a plan you once really meant to keep. Every time you open your Notes app for something else, it is still right there, waiting. A little reminder of a morning you never quite reached. Do you still have a list like this somewhere on your phone? Write 1 in the comments if it is still sitting there, unopened. Write 2 if you deleted it a long time ago. Either way, stay with me. Today, you will learn the real reason it happened and a much smaller way to try again. This time, the goal is not a longer list. It is a list that finally survives past day 7. If this sounds like you are not alone. A lot of people make a big list, and a lot of lists end up exactly like this one. Today, we talk about why this happens. And we talk about one small thing you can try tonight before you go to bed. Here is the idea for today. This is not one new habit to add to your morning. It is a different way to think about your whole list. It is not about throwing your list away. It is about starting with just one piece of it, the right way. The real habit today is not water, or stretching, or writing. It is choosing one and protecting it before adding anything else. Instead of 5 things, you pick just one, the smallest one on the list. You cross out everything else, at least for now. Then you attach that one tiny thing to a moment you already have every morning. This is not about doing less because you do not care. It is about building your morning the right way, one strong piece first, before adding anything else. You might think one tiny thing feels too small to matter. That is a fair thing to think. A lot of people feel exactly that way the first time they hear this idea, but a list that actually lasts can do more for you than a long list that disappears after a week. You have probably heard advice like, just be more consistent before, without anyone explaining how. This is different. This is about the size of what you are asking yourself to be consistent with. So, here is our question for today. Why do big morning routines almost always fall apart after just a few days? And what should you build instead so it actually lasts? By the end of this video, you will understand this, and you will know exactly what to do tonight before you go to sleep. Before we get to that, let's talk about why big lists fail. Not to judge anyone, just to understand it. A lot of people believe a real change needs a big list. They think, if I really want a better morning, I need to do a lot, all at once. One small thing feels too small to count as really trying. It can feel like you are not even doing a real morning routine anymore, just one tiny piece of one. A list of 5 feels like proof that you are serious. One small thing can feel like you gave up halfway. But proof that feels good on day 1 is not the same as a habit that survives day 30. There is another reason too, and it happens on day 1. The first morning always feels easy. You are excited. The list feels light, almost fun. That feeling of excitement is real, but it does not last forever. By day 3 or 4, the same 5 things feel heavier than they did at the start. The water, the stretching, the writing, the 10 quiet minutes, the breathing, none of them got harder to do. The list did not get any longer. It just stopped feeling new. On top of that, every single thing on a list needs its own small decision. Drink water a decision, stretch a decision. Write your day down another decision. 5 things means 5 small decisions every single morning before you have even left your bed. That adds up fast, even when each thing by itself is small. By the time you have made 5 small decisions, you have not even left your room yet. And on a tired morning, even small decisions can feel surprisingly heavy. And then there is one more reason, maybe the easiest one to miss. When you drop one thing from the list, it can feel like the whole list has failed. Skipping the sitting still part for one day can feel like losing the whole plan, not just one piece of it. So, instead of keeping the other 4 things, it feels easier to simply stop trying altogether. One missing piece, and the whole list can start to feel like it was never really working in the first place. It is an all or nothing feeling, even though nothing about the other 4 things actually changed. None of this means something is wrong with you. These are simply normal reasons. A lot of people fall into exactly this same pattern. The list was not wrong to want. It was just too big, too fast, from the very first day. Today, you are going to learn a smaller way to build the exact same kind of morning. And once you understand why your mind works this way, the fix will feel almost obvious. To understand the real reason, let's look at one simple thing about how habits actually work. Think about brushing your teeth. You have probably brushed your teeth the same way, thousands of mornings in a row. You do not stop and decide to brush your teeth every morning. You just do it. It does not feel like a choice anymore. It feels automatic. This is the real answer to our question from earlier. Big lists fail not because of anything wrong with you. They fail because none of the 5 things ever had time to become automatic, the way brushing your teeth did. That is what a real habit looks like. After enough time, no decision, no effort to remember. It just happens on its own. Putting on your shoes before you leave the house works the same way. You do not stop to think about it. Your hand just reaches for them, A brand new list of 5 things is the opposite of that. None of the 5 things are automatic yet. Every single one still needs a decision, every morning. That is a lot of decisions to make, again and again, before your day has even started. A tiny habit works differently. It is so small that there is almost no reason to say no to it. Drinking 1 glass of water takes a few seconds. It is hard to find an excuse big enough to skip something that small. There is simply nothing big enough in your way to push it aside. Compare that to a full morning routine. There are a dozen reasons to skip it on a busy day. A tiny habit barely leaves room for even one. When a tiny habit is repeated enough times, something interesting happens. It slowly turns into something automatic, just like brushing your teeth. And once it feels automatic, there is finally room to add one more small thing. Many people find that one tiny habit, kept for a few weeks, lasts much longer than 5 habits. 5 habits kept for only a few days. Not because the 5 things were bad ideas, but because they were never given the time to become automatic, one at a time. The size of a habit, it turns out, matters more than how good the habit is. To see exactly how this plays out, let's follow one real example. There was a person, an ordinary person, not so different from you or from me. They wrote a list, too. 5 things, just like the one you might have written. And just like a lot of people, their list slowly fell apart. By the second week, almost nothing was left. They felt a little disappointed in themselves, the same way you might feel about your own list. For a while, they almost gave up on the whole idea of a morning routine. They thought it simply was not for them. One day, they read about this idea. They decided to try it a different way. This time, they picked only one thing from their old list, the smallest one: drinking a glass of water. They attached it to a moment they already had, every single morning right when they turned off their alarm. No new alarm, no new app, just one small thing, added to a moment that already happened anyway. They did not expect much from something so small, but because it was so small, they never really forgot it, and never really skipped it either. After about 2 weeks, drinking that glass of water felt automatic, just like brushing their teeth. They did not have to think about it anymore. Their hand simply reached for the glass, the same way it reached for their toothbrush. It was such a small thing. But out of every habit they had ever tried, it was the first one that actually lasted this long. In the 3rd week, they added one more tiny thing. This time, it felt easier. The first habit was already steady, already standing on its own. They were not starting from zero anymore. They were building on something that already worked. A year later, they could not even remember a time when drinking that morning glass of water felt like an effort. That small example shows what is possible. Now, let's talk about how to actually do this yourself. There is no list here, no 5 things to remember, just one thing, small enough that it almost cannot fail. Here is the plan, in 2 parts. First, choose the smallest thing from your own list, the easiest one, the one that takes the least effort. It does not need to be the most important thing. It only needs to be the smallest one. Second, attach that one tiny thing to a moment you already have every single day. right when you turn off your alarm, right when your feet touch the floor, right when you walk into the bathroom. Any moment that already happens without you having to remember it works perfectly. You do not add a second thing yet. Not until the first one feels completely automatic. The same way brushing your teeth feels automatic. This might take 1 week. It might take 3. There is no fixed number, and that is completely fine. When the first tiny habit finally feels automatic, that is your signal. That is when you can add one more small thing, attached to a new moment, the same simple way. You might be wondering which thing from your list you should pick first. The honest answer is, it almost does not matter. Pick whichever one feels the smallest and the easiest to you right now. You can always choose a different one next time. The size matters far more than which exact thing you choose. Now you understand the idea. So let's make it real. Here is exactly what you can try, starting tonight. Tonight, before you go to bed, look at your morning list, the one you wrote, or the one in your head. Pick the smallest thing on it. Just one. Cross out everything else, at least for now. Tomorrow morning, attach that one tiny thing to something you already do right when you wake up or right when your feet touch the floor. Do only that for the next 2 weeks. That is the entire plan. No long list. No 5 decisions every morning. Just one tiny thing, attached to a moment you already have. Let's talk for a moment about why this small change actually works. A tiny habit, attached to a moment you already have, does not need much willpower to keep going. It is small enough and automatic enough that skipping it almost feels stranger than doing it. This time, the habit has a real chance to stick, not because you are trying harder than before, but because the habit itself is finally small enough to last. If you wrote one earlier because your old list is still sitting there, unopened, this is how you finally open it again. Just differently this time. Once it feels automatic, you build on it. One more small thing attached the same simple way. Slowly, your whole morning grows piece by piece instead of all at once. A month from now, you could have 2 or 3 steady habits, each one built the same patient way. Instead of one long list that disappeared in a week. This is not a plan with 5 steps to remember tonight. This is one small decision, made once, before bed. You do not need to pick the best habit on your first try. Any small, easy thing works. You can always choose a different one later. The goal tonight is not the perfect choice. The goal is simply a small enough choice. Can you try this tonight? I think you really can. One tiny thing. That is all you need to choose. So remember this clearly. Tonight, pick one tiny thing. Attach it to a moment you already have. That is the one thing to do. Let's picture it one more time, the way it could go from here. 2 weeks from now, you open your phone. There is no long list anymore, just one tiny thing, sitting quietly at the start of your morning. You might even open that old Notes app again, just to look at it, not to feel bad about it, just to see how far one small thing has carried you, compared to 5 things that disappeared in a week, and it is still there. Not because you forced yourself to remember it, but because it never asked too much of you in the first place. You barely remember deciding to keep it. It simply became part of how your morning starts, the same way brushing your teeth became part of your morning a long time ago. And now, for the first time, you are ready to build on it. One more small thing, just one. This is what a morning routine actually looks like, when it is built the right way, slow, steady, and quiet, instead of loud and short-lived. Before we finish, let's remember what we talked about today. One more time. Here is the short version, in case you want to remember just the main idea. Big morning lists almost never stick, not because you are weak, but because every new thing needs its own decision. One by one, the hardest things get dropped first, until the whole list quietly disappears. A tiny habit is so small, there is almost no reason to say no to it. You attach that tiny habit to a moment you already have, so you never have to remember it on your own. Once the tiny habit feels automatic, you can build on it one small thing at a time. Now, let's review our words for today, slowly, one at a time. List. You wrote a list. 5 things to do every single morning. Stick. A big list almost never sticks. Not because you are weak, because it is too big. Drop. One by one, you start to drop things from the list. Tiny. A tiny habit is small enough that you almost cannot say no to it. Attach. You attach the new, tiny habit to something you already do every single day. Build. Once the tiny habit feels automatic, you can build on it. One more small thing. 6 small words. One tiny habit. That is everything you need to choose tonight. If this was helpful, listen to it again tonight, before you make tomorrow's list. Or share it with a friend whose morning list keeps falling apart, too. Maybe between the two of you, you can finally keep just one thing going. See you next time.